we want to protect all women. First off, of course, Black women as well, but we do want to protect all women. And if you guys feel as though I failed in that, I'm going to take accountability and responsibility for that. But just know, I come here every week. Y'all been hearing me for the last fucking 5 years on a weekly basis. I'm learning with you guys. I'm changing as things, change as well. And I'm in here with my friends, and some things are just kind of, I miss sight on as far as the bigger picture sometimes. And I know that there's just a lot of things that I wanted to speak to with you, Bridget, of course.
Because she knows I didn't want to talk about this
at
shit.
all. At all.
I wanted to come in this week and find and really just discuss how refreshing and euphoric it must have been for her to take a little step away. But, in all actuality, none of us can really escape the things that exist in our framework, right? And this last week for me has been more of a struggle because I am not of the, I won't say of the generation, I'm not of the cloth that shares everything on the internet, right?
Right.
And the one thing that I repeatedly saw last week was that we didn't hold Joe accountable in the moment, that we didn't hold Joe accountable. And I think for everybody, accountability looks different. And I say that to say some people want us to leave the network. Some people wanted us in that moment to reprimand and rip to shreds Joe while he was on our pod that episode. And here's the thing, right? The thing is, in the same breath that everyone in the room was uncomfortable, we were all also very attentive to and avidly committed to our internal conversations off camera. And I'm used to dealing with things off camera. I'm used to having those really hard conversations and confrontations off camera. And so this is a situation where I've been kind of quiet on social media the last week, not because I feel guilty, but because I'm much more concerned about the internal work that needs to go on here at the network amongst ourselves as a team, between Mandy and I, to become, more of a solid force in support of women. Because we did drop the ball in a moment where we were supposed to step up in that moment, whatever everyone's expectations. I'm not concerned about anyone else's expectations in that space other than Olivia's, and we fell short. And that was why I led last week's therapy session with an apology to Olivia, because I still genuinely want her to know that regardless of the petty bullshit that everybody has continued to try to throw at us about, well, y'all were subbing her on social media and this was blah, 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 blah. Whatever was going on behind the scenes, there was way more conversations that should have been had more in depth that were not for y'all.
Right.
That were our business, that were Olivia's business, that were not for us or anybody to share and speak on in depth, because nobody owes y'all that. We don't owe y'all that. Yet last week we came in here and everyone's criticism was, well, they just sat there and they said nothing. We sat here after that episode and Joe apologized to everyone present. That's not always going to be advertised. That's not always the conversations we have about accountability behind closed doors are not always for everybody. They're just not. And you guys have to be okay with not all of it being for everybody. In most corporate settings, when there's a sexual harassment situation, the energy shifts, everybody's real uncomfortable. But whoever is the accused, right? There's some level of reprimand and course correction within the company, within the network. We're having conversations behind closed doors about how to prevent this from ever happening again. Because that's what corporations do. Mm-hmm. Everyone doesn't, when someone gets accused of harassment, everybody doesn't pack up and say, okay, well, I'm leaving. This is what we're doing. I'm out of here. I don't know what you're about, but I can't be a part of this. No. That's not real life. That's not what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, you know, bitch, I don't know the word. Because you be correcting me with all my words.
It's not, I don't want to say it's not productive, but it's not progressive.
Progressive.
If the idea is...
Not the commercial, yes.
No, and if the idea is to grant everybody... We all tell each other all the time, we got to grant grace, we got to grant people grace. There were more people last week.
They lied.
Not even just that they lied. For anyone to victimize or demonize anyone in a space where everyone is learning at the same time is just it's absolutely unacceptable. And I'm not done. I gotta get this off because the part that's been the most upsetting to me is, as a network, we have all been having a lot of internal conversations about repairing and also fixing an infrastructure that was never in place. Whatever video dropped last week, Mandy and I had an hour to while we're putting makeup on to figure out what we were going to say here. We did not have the internal preparation with any team. All we could come in here and do was pod, and I'm still learning how to do that because I am of the and you could say generation. I'm of the generation and the type of person that doesn't want to come in here and pod and just keep podding through it because I don't want to keep rehashing. Madame Noir did a think piece with Bossip last week about the situation and said, the more these girls talk about this, the worse it sounds, the worse it gets. But if we said nothing at all, if we came in and just potted through it and acted like and breezed over it, then we would have been demonized and made the villain anyway.
Well, and that's been our conversation. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
Well, and it's not to say that we're victims in this space either. So for anybody that's rolling their eyes hearing that right now, we're not victims either. But I do want to say on record and on paper that both Mandy and I have had conversations with Joe. And Joe knew he was wrong in that space and in that day, and he has apologized. He apologized on the day and he's apologized since. And now our role in maintaining our integrity and dignity, which, by the way, none of y'all get to decide or determine. The only person that determines my integrity and my dignity is God, because that's the only person I answer to. At the end of the day, for Mandy and I, the courses are being corrected here. The internal work is being done. The infrastructure in this company, in this network, is being repaired and being rebuilt in such a way that will allow for all of us to meet each other where we are and have the hard conversations and correct one another when we're out of order and out of line. And we've created a space for that to be possible. So going forward, we love and appreciate and respect everybody that is taking this learning curve with us, even though y'all are not taking it to the chin the way we are. We still appreciate the support and the outpouring of encouragement because it is really hard and it is really rough. And to be clear, I do need to mention this as well because it crossed my mind last week and I didn't say it. The difficulty for Olivia in having to speak up about that means that she's also inviting the same amount of attention around a situation that was traumatizing for her. So before anybody else gets crazy about, well, they just used that time to play the victim. No, we didn't. We used that time to apologize to a woman who we failed. That was it. That's all the time was for. And ultimately, you wanted us to say that Joe was wrong, and he was wrong. He was absolutely inappropriate and made everyone in this space uncomfortable. And we did the best we could in that moment with the information we had. And that's all we can do. That's all anybody can do. That's all anybody can do.